Many of you know I've lived in the city for probably most of my adult life. And this story happened on a night much like tonight, about 2 or 3 years ago. So my kids were out of town, and it was really hot, and we were just going to be enjoying an evening at home alone in the quiet. And my husband was out to get some beer, and I'm on my back porch reading a book and drinking a glass of water and smoking a cigarette. If you don't know where I live on Lincoln Street in York. It's probably the steepest hill in York City, and the alley behind it is even steeper. So the houses are kind of staggered, and from my perch, it's a 3.5-story house. From my perch on my porch, I can pretty much see all of my neighbors' yards across the alley. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading my book, and I hear screech. I was like, oh, that's unusual. As I look down the hill, and a car comes tearing around the corner and barreling up my very steep, very narrow alley. And I said, oh, and I stood up and I dropped my book and I knocked over my water as the passenger side door opened up, and a light-skinned, very tall man jumped out of the passenger side door. As they get to about right in front of my gate, it goes, eek, and it pulls into the parking pad across the street from my house. The driver's seat door opens up, and a very tall, very dark-skinned man with dreadlocks hops out and goes running. And the car keeps going straight into the house. So by this time, I, pick up my cell phone and I call 911 and I go, so a car just drove into my neighbor's house. And so I'm on the phone with 911. She's getting my details. And as I'm on the phone with 911, I walk into my house. I walk up to my bedroom. And, I forgot to mention, this is a very important part. I was wearing a dress, and it didn't have pockets. Okay? If you're a woman, you'll understand why this is a problem, but it is pertinent to the story. So I'm on the phone with 911, and she's like, can you see the license plate? And I'm in my bedroom getting our handgun. And I was like, hold on a second. I went inside to get something. I'll go back outside. So, I go back outside, and there's nobody around. I'm, literally the only person in my neighborhood, which never happens. And so I go creeping across the alley with my phone and the gun. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't go out in the alley with the gun in my hand. But I don't have any pockets. So I take the gun, and I stick it in nature's pocket. And I'm tiptoeing across the alley, looking for these people. And I'm like, okay, it's a gold Honda Accord, late model, license plate number, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, I'm going back to my yard now. So I go back to my yard, and all the police and the fire trucks show up. There's 10 of them. And so I know they're going to want to talk to me because I'm literally the only person that saw this happen. So I see them there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out there. But I still have the gun, stuck in my boobs. And technically it wasn't concealed, but I thought it was probably best to leave it to the professionals. So I take the gun out of my boobs, and I put it on top of my children's jungle gym. And I go and I talk to the police officers. I tell the stories for several months. It was really crazy. And I didn't think much of it for a while. And then about 6 months later, I'm in my backyard, doing some yard work. And a constable knocked at my back gate. So even if you are the most law-abiding citizen and you may or may not be a person who's ever been handcuffed to a holding cell bench, if a constable comes to your door, you're going to be like, oh shit, what the hell did I do? But it turns out I was just going to testify against these guys, and I ended up testifying in court, and they both got convicted, and that's the story of the emergency in my neighborhood.